September the 4th, 2019. As you're looking at the latest tracking from the National Hurricane Center on Dorian, you've got a Cat 2 now, and it's in the bottom of this chart, and it's going to go straight up, according to this chart, and then just about to the center of South Carolina, right in that area, and then start to move northeast as a Cat 2 hurricane until it exits the coast somewhere around the Outer Banks of North Carolina, Nags Head. But notice that you also have tropical storm watches up into Virginia now. And what they're saying, we've got sustained winds at 105, movement north-northwest. That's to the left. That's not to the right. That's, again, why I'm kind of concerned about the South Carolina area taking the first direct land impact since it left the Bahamas. Again, north-northwest at 9 miles an hour. It's starting to speed up, so you can't let your guard down. And pulling this up just a little, you can see you've got your watches and warnings still out up into Georgia, but just south of the South Carolina and Georgia border is where these hurricane watches are up. You've got tropical storm winds that exceed out over 100 miles from the center. But if you get, again, right into the Virginia area, in this yellow, right there, let me pull this down just a little. Tropical storm watches. You've got, again, tropical storm warnings out, Florida through Georgia. Hurricane warnings. That's going to be the problem. And the fact, again, moving north-northwest to the left. And, guys, you know how storms are in this area because we've seen them in the last 2 to 3 years really get into here and you start getting these high rains and you get these floods, some devastating floods we've seen lately. But in the pink area, 50%, that's a high chance of flash flooding. As you back out of that into the orange, it's a 20%, 10% in yellow, and a 5% chance of flash flooding in green. And this purple area, which is 50%, that is where I'm thinking the first impact will be, right there. That's going to try to weaken the storm. And what we're seeing as the storm is in this area, right there, is it's moving over the Gulf Stream, guys. That's warm water, and the ice seems to be tightening up some. So again, for all my friends in the Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia areas, don't let your guard down, guys. This is for this area, by the way, all the way from Texas to here. It's a drill if you've lived here for a long enough time, and you guys know the drill. If you got newcomers around you, let them know what can happen. Show them some pictures from 2016, 2017 of the flooding. So you need to be aware of that. But now it's time to start paying attention to it. But first, you're going to have a Cat 2 impact. You're going to have power outages. Even at a Cat 2, you're going to have some trees down. And again, after a storm this time of year pulls through, the humidity will go up and the heat goes up. And without power, think about the very young and the very elderly as far as air conditioning. It's going to be a rough time if this thing hits here as a Cat 2, and that's exactly what it's looking like. And this is your rainfall amounts. Notice in the bottom left it says this is valid from 8 a.m. Eastern, Wednesday, September 4th, through Saturday, September the 7th. In the 10 to 15-inch rain, you have this red area all along the coast. I mean, right up through there. That's a lot of rain, and what they've got here in the purple area is actually over the ocean and 15 to 20 inches. So that's telling you not only you're going to have rainfall, you're going to have storm surge. They're talking about 14, 15-foot seas along the coast, and we got 32-foot seas out around the actual hurricane itself. Right along the coast, the rainfall, again, will be a problem. Storm surge is going to be a problem because of this. You got 32-foot seas to the right of Dorian. 23 feet seas on the weaker end, but this right side leading up to where it says 24 foot, this northeast quadrant, is going to be the problem as the storm rotates counterclockwise up the coast this afternoon and tonight. Every area that it crosses at one point is going to face the northeast quadrant. Of course, as the storm moves past, the winds will be coming offshore. But at every section will be facing at one time directly ocean-facing storm surge coming out of the east. And that's going to be a problem. If it depends on how fast the storm moves out of here, and it does seem to be picking up speed, that will lessen the inland flooding time. The longer it sits there, the worse that will flood. So if it doesn't set over you guys in Carolinas, like the storm we saw a couple years ago, and then flood everything, remember all the poultry farms and everything that flooded, all the roads, bridges, everything was flooded out. I mean, it was bad. But if this one doesn't come ashore there, as far as coming ashore and moving up through the mountains, if it just comes in and grazes that shoreline and gets on out, then you may not have the as much flooding. You're still going to be looking at over short distance of time, up to 15 inches possibly. So there will be immediate flash flooding, but maybe it won't get up into the mountains for a couple of days, and then we see that nightmare again. But you're going to have whatever flash flooding occurs is not going to be able to drain quickly along the coast. Why? You got this type of waves that are moving in, and they're going to move into the inlets and the bays and the rivers. So think about that as you as you would normally think of a flash flood from a rain that can drain off quickly. That's not going to happen here. Now, as I'm going through this video, this update was 6 minutes ago, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. And the models are very similar, except that you've got about two now that where it grazes the South Carolina shore, comes in right around that area, and then tucks inland and crosses into North Carolina. You see that, guys? So that would present a little more problem on your flooding. Again, these are brand new updates on the tracking, but where they all come together is right off the Myrtle Beach area. So looks like a lot of it's showing a pretty good impact, a good side swipe right into there. And guys, if you saw the Jacksonville Pier images this morning when Dorian was a little further south, there was probably 15, 20-foot seas under that large pier. And I've seen some flooding that is inland there just in some of the bays in the Georgia area, and that seemed very high. You know, there was I saw one picture of a pier before and after, and it looked like it was at least 15 or 20 foot above the ocean, there above the salt water, and it was washing over the pier. It wasn't large waves, it was backwater being pushed in. That's a lot of water, so you guys really be careful there. Now, looking at the current satellite imaging, to your bottom left, that's Ferdinand. It's moved out of the Gulf and is going to move up through Mexico. Now, South Texas, you're getting some of this moisture. But in the last few frames, notice Dorian in the right, these storms recycle themselves, and the eye wall will become less defined. But now it seems to be getting over those warm waters of the Gulf Stream, and it's going to continue that as it moves in this direction. It seems to be picking up a little bit of strength here, and you've got the heat of the day on top of the clouds. So be careful of that, guys. Keep an eye on this storm. Cat 2 doesn't sound anything after what we saw hit the Bahamas, and they are devastated if you've seen the images. I mean, over 14,000 homes are gone. Entire neighborhoods, entire islands are almost inundated still, and everything wiped out. So I know it's not that strong, but a Cat 2 can do a lot of damage. It can hurt people. It can leave you without power for extended periods of time if you're not careful. I'm sure they'll be moving a lot of linemen into this area. But again, watch for your later updates. Stay tuned to your local weather, and they'll be the first to come up. If you had a tornado warning or something like that happen as this moves closer to you, they could get it to you very quickly. Also, we have the National Weather Center, National Hurricane Centers, all those links on our website at BPEarthWatch.com. And so there's no way that there's too many ways you can keep your eye on the storm so you're not caught off guard. But if you're in the that area that it's tracking to along the North Georgia shore, into South Carolina, guys, you might want to think about maybe moving inland just a little bit. Just get your family, go up into the mountains in the Smokies or something, and hang out for a day or two, and see what happens. We don't know how this thing will turn. Many storms have turned at the last minute, but right now it seems to be strengthening. And northwest, upward and to the left at 9 miles an hour. It's a heads up. Be safe.